Hey guys, so here's part 2 of the lesson 9 notes. Now what we're going to talk about is using your graphing calculator for regression. And this is going to be for exponential and power functions. So here are the steps. So you may want to pause the video so you can write these steps down. So here's how we use our regression feature. Now we have actually already done this with our quadratics and polynomials. So when we did quadratics and cubic functions. So remember, you're going to click Stat Edit, plug values into L1, L2, and then stat calc. Now, depending on if they ask you for an exponential or power, if for exponential, you will do expreg. So this is for an exponential model. So that will be number 0 or a power model. And so that's going to be PWR reg letter A. Okay, let's try a couple examples here. And as stated, if you needed to pause the video to write all this down, make sure you have done that. Okay, so let's look at example 5. So it says a store sells motor scooters. The table shows the number of Y of scooters sold during the X year that the store has been open. So we got the year, so that's the numbers, and then the number of scooters. Now remember that your X is going to be represented as an L1, and your Y is going to be L2 when we plug this into our graphing calculator. Now, here it says use a graphing calculator to find an exponential. So they are going to have to tell you which model to do, either exponential or power. So we're going to do an exponential model here. So let's go ahead and go into our graphing calculator. So remember the steps. We're going to first click Stat, and then we want to edit, so press Enter. Now, you may have some stuff here. If you do, don't forget that you can highlight, press Clear, and then Enter, and it'll clear everything there. So what we're going to plug in our L1 is the numbers 1 through 7. So we're going to do 1, enter 2. And remember, after each number, just press enter. Okay, now we do our L2. So we're going to plug in 12, 16, 25, 36, 50, all these numbers into there. So you may have to look at your notes when you're plugging these in. Okay, there we go. So now the next step is we're going to click Stat, and then we're going to go over to Calc. Now remember, this told us we're going to do exponential, so we're going to go all the way down to where it says 0 exp reg, and that's what I want. Now make sure your X list says L1, Y list is L2, then just go all the way down to where it says calculate, press enter, and there you go. So it tells you the A value, and it tells you the B value. Now, for our purposes, as we've always done, we're going to round to 2 decimal places. So we're going to have 8.46 as our A value and 1.42 as our B. So our function here, using the variables they given to us, so notice they gave us X and Y, so we're going to use those variables. We'll have Y equals 8.46 times 1.42 to the X. And that's our model. And remember, on the graphing calculator, it does give you the general model for exponential. So A times B raised to the X power. So use that to help. Now it says predict the number of scooters sold in the 8th year. So notice 8th year is our Y value. So what we're trying to solve for here, or sorry, 8th year is not the Y value, it's the X. Usually years is Y, but excuse me for that. 8th year is our X value. So let me rewrite that. So what we're trying to do is solve for Y. So we have Y equals 8.46 and then times 1.42 raised to the 8th power. And all we're going to do is just plug this into our calculator here. So I have 8.46 and then 1.42 raised to the 8th. Now, let's talk about this. Notice that they are talking about scooters, right? And notice that we have whole numbers. So we are going to want to make sure we round this to a whole number. So our nearest whole number is going to be 140. So since our decimal is higher than 0.5, we round up. So really our answer here is going to be 140 scooters. Okay, let's try the next example. Okay, so the table shows the typical wingspan X in feet and the typical weights Y in pounds for several type of birds. So we have wingspan X and weight in pounds. So we have those. Now, once again, remember, X is going to be your L1 and then Y is going to be your L2. Okay, so now it's going to say use a graphing calculator to find a power model. So that's what we're using. Once again, they have to tell you which model you're going to find for the data. So we're going to use a power model. Okay, going back to our graphing calculators. Remember, we're going to click on Stat. We got to edit. Now remember, to get rid of this L1, I'm going to highlight my L1. I'm going to press Clear and Enter. Do not press Delete because it's going to delete the whole thing. Now my L1 is going to be the X value, so I'm going to plug these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 values in. So make sure you do that. So make sure you're looking at your notes because you may need to do that so you know the value. So we got 1.9, 2.92, 3.1 or 3.41, excuse me. We got 5.35 and then 8.4. Okay, so now we do the same thing. So I'm going to go up to L2. I'm going to press Clear Enter to get rid of everything and then plug in our L2 value. So that's the bottom of our table here. Okay, so we're going to start with 0.23 and keep going from there. Okay, so once you have done all of that, now we go ahead and go back to Stat. We're going to go over to Calc. Now we want to go to Power Reg. So Power Reg is going to be letter A, so PWR Reg. So I'm going to press Enter. Remember, make sure your X list is L1, Y list is L2. And once that is good, then go all the way down to Calculate, press Enter. And we get our A and B. So here, I'm going to round my A because I do have a 0 to 3 decimal places, but I'll still round my B to 2 decimal places. Now remember, power model is going to be A times X to the B. So we got to follow that model or that function there. So we're going to have Y equals. Now, once again, I'm going to use the variables they gave to us. So it's X and Y. So that's not too bad. So we got Y equals 0.044. Let me clean that up. So 0.044 X and then raised to our B value, which was 2.87. So I'm going to round that. Okay. So there's our model. And so remember, I got that from just the calculator here. Okay, now it says estimate the weight of the bird with a wingspan of 4.5. Now this wingspan of 4.5, that is our X value. So we're going to plug that into there. Okay. So we have Y equals 0.044 times 4.5 raised to the 2.87 power. We just plug that into our calculator. So when we do that, 0.044, and then we have 4.5, and don't forget your caret key there. And then we're going to do 2.87. Oops, don't do 287. Let me make sure I have a point. There we go, because that's going to give us a weird number. There we go. So here, we can round to 2 decimal places. So we'll have about, I guess, 3.3, because if I look at my third, it's going to raise it up. So we have 3.3. Now, don't forget your label. We're talking about weight, and it told us that our weight is in pounds. So we have 3.3 pounds. Okay, so that is the end for part 2 of lesson 9.